This month on Hingham Happenings, find out about one museum, an international baseball game, a new place to print, and events kids can take part in during April break. All this coming up on Hingham Happenings.
Hi, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Hingham Happenings. I'm your host, Ryan Allen. Our first story takes us to a museum that's behind these two doors. Let's go check it out.
It's not a bird or a plane in the sky. It's a fire truck. And down below is the Bear Cove Fire Museum. Inside there's a history of firefighting in and around Hingham. Jerry Duff is the museum's clerk, and she knows all about the history.
The start of the Bear Cove Fire Museum was with this ladder truck, a 1924 Maxim ladder. Lloyd Linscott was getting auto parts at a used auto shop in Bellingham, and the owner noticed he had a Hingham Fire Department badge, mentioned he had the truck. Lloyd looked at it, went back to Hingham, to Charlie Cushion's gas station. Him and three of his buddies got together, $100 a piece, they bought it. They brought it back to Hingham, they restored it. It's now in the display apparatus room, the Bear Cove Fire Museum. You would never know it was the same truck. And that's how we got started. Once the four guys brought the old ladder truck back to Hingham, they got together with their buddies, they all chipped in, and they restored it to factory specifications. While they were working on it, someone said, gee, I know where the sister is to this. It's the 1924 pumper. They bought that one and restored that to factory specifications. As they're doing this, people started coming in saying, I have my grandfather's badge, would you like it? I have a box of photographs, would you like them? And before they knew it, they had a museum full of materials that shows the history of firefighting in Hingham, and it demonstrates the firefighting as it grew in New England area. Now over here, we have the 1924 pumper they found. Built in Maxim Motors in Middleborough. You'll notice it doesn't have a roof. The kids get excited because, wait a minute, if your truck doesn't have a roof, you're going to get rained on. You're going to get snowed on. But that's how the initial fire trucks were. Later years, they developed cabs and went back and retrofitted some of the older trucks with cabs. We like them like this. They have nice visual when you're driving. If a member of the Bear Cove Fire Museum is between the ages of 21 and 70, we will train them to be able to drive these trucks. So that is one of the benefits of being a fire museum member. The other benefits are you get to play with all the neat toys. You get to play with fire extinguishers and bells and axes and pike poles. And that's the story, the little story of the trucks. The town of Hingham bought 4 Hunneman hand tubs in 1846. This was the first time South Hingham got their own fire engine. It was placed in a shed behind the Second Parish Church. In 1846, the town of Hingham built them their own fire station across from Mill Lane, which is no longer there. And you can see this bell and eagle in some of the pictures. What happened up in South Hingham is that this Hunneman bell and eagle was on the original 1846 piece. When they got a new fire truck later on, they took all the old equipment off and put it on the new truck. They did this for years until the truck they got for South Hingham could not fit this bell. And then it was given to the Bear Cove Fire Museum. Well, this particular bell actually belonged to the Association of Engine 4, and the last member was not happy to give up the bell. So we had to bring it back to him. Brought it in, sat it on the table in front of him, and he says, okay, the Fire Museum can have it now. So this bell is the original 1846 from the first fire truck at Hingham, in South Hingham. And it sounds like this.
This is Hingham engine number 2. The town of Hingham received this truck all the way back in 1935 for a cost of $12,500. The truck was retired in 1961, but it's brought back out every year for the Hingham 4th of July parade.
This is our showcase truck. It is one of the most powerful trucks that was built in 1935. While the group of men were working on the first 2 restorations, they were hunting down all the other Hingham fire pieces. A man down in Rhode Island owned this truck, and he was driving it a little too fast one day down the expressway. He threw a rod and put a hole in the engine block. "Ah, great," we said, "can we have it?" And he says, "No." He says, if you want this truck, you have to trade me another one." So we went out and bought another Aaron's Fox and traded with him and brought this back to Hingham on a flatbed. The guys, again, stripped this down, they scoured for parts, and they restored it to factory specifications. After they restored it, they took it down to Weir River by the high school and pumped with it, and it pumps just as well as it did in 1935. You'll notice that the steering wheel is on the wrong side. Because the engine was so big and powerful, they couldn't see the fire hydrants if they were driving on the other side, so they moved the steering wheel over so the driver could lean over and make sure he got close enough to the hydrant to hook up. Went to a lot of big fires. We had a lot of, back in the 1930s and 40s, we had a lot of massive woods fires in Hingham. They went down to Nantasket several times, and a lot of the other outlying towns that had major fires would often call for it because it just could put out so much water. And then we get the old timers out here talking about it, and they talk about the time they rolled it, and they had a few other little accidents, and how it got repaired, but you'd never know that it went through all that because it's in mint condition, and it really looks good in the 4th of July parade. After we had hand tubs, they developed fire hydrants in Hingham, and when they developed fire hydrants in Hingham, they got to use more hose, and we came up with these hose wagons. And each area in town had one, and you'll see pictures of them all covered up with their ladders and hose and all that. Now when we start a tour, because it's the first thing in the door, you're going to learn about the history of firefighting in Hingham. In Hingham, the selectmen's first rule was you had a ladder to reach the peak of your house, and you had to have a bucket, only for fighting fires. And when the call went out that your house was on fire, and this is in the early years, the 1600s, you were to throw your bucket out into the road. People running to the fire would grab your bucket and go on. Then you would dampen down your own cooking fires in your own house, and then you would go. And the entire village had to put out a fire. The buckets were all they had at the time, from 1600 to 1802. And in 1802, we have our first fire truck. And people would throw buckets of water into the tub, and by using the pump and using air pressure, it could get through the nozzle, it could get a stream of water to the peak of the house. While that was going on, there was a man, because it was a very physical job, there was a man with a pole just like this at the fire, and you would go to him and say, "You're in charge, what do I do?" And he would tell you to go into the house and take out the dishes, because the house is going to burn real fast and we got to get them out. And then another person would show up and he said, "Get into the bucket brigade line." So the person that was in charge of the fire held the staff, and he was called a fire ward. As the fire is burning, villagers are running into the house to take out anything they can. And one of the most valuable pieces of furniture in the house was the bed, and it had to be taken apart. This is a bed key, and oftentimes one person was in charge of the key. And at the fire, you would hear the fire warden yelling for the person with the J-shaped key. The word, and then it's slurred a little bit, and who's got the J-shaped key? Who's got the Jake key? Who's got the Jake? And next thing you know, we're calling firefighters Jakes. And that's how they got their nickname. Each fire engine took a name. The men were real proud. If you want to be a member of this organization, you get voted in every year. And they're real proud, and they would have the jewelers would make up badges for them. And they had badges, they had leather belts made up, and they have uniforms. This is really unique in the collection in that this is a Constitution uniform. This is the only known one. Each year they would get together on Fast Day or Firefighter Sunday, and they would parade, and they would dress up in their fire. You would not see this at a fire. When they went to a fire, they went whatever they were working in. This was specific for their parades. Very proud. The men in the early years bought the equipment, and the town of Hingham provided the buildings to keep them in. Later on, the town of Hingham started buying fire trucks. The helmets, not only are they protecting your head, it's an identification. When you lose your equipment, they could get it back to you. The top of a helmet has a heavy metal piece, which was used when you swung it to break the glass so you could get oxygen into the room while you were working. The helmet made out of leather protected you from debris. And then the large flap on the back kept water from going down the back of your neck. After a fire, you're exhausted, and you don't want to be picking up little bits and pieces, so mostly what they would do is scoop everything up, put it on the truck with the same number, and then when you went back to the building or the station, you would sort it all out then. The extinguisher was used during the Civil War era. It was kept down at Hingham Harbor on the docks, and in 1862 there was a major fire in Hingham Square. Today, where Winston Flowers is, was a paint shop and a couple of other businesses. Well, all the able-bodied men were off fighting the War of the Rebellion. It left in Hingham women and less abled persons. So the women went down to Hingham Harbor and, not using a horse, pulled us by hand up to Hingham Square, got it and cooked it up. While they're doing this, the rest of the village showed up, and they all start pumping, and they put the fire out. And all the ladies got in the newspaper was one sentence that said, "If not for the ladies, the Hingham Square would have burnt." And that's all they got for recognition, even though they did the lion's share of the work. When the town of Hingham developed a Gamewell fire alarm system, it was based on the telegraph system, where you had wires running down the street, and in Hingham the fire alarm boxes would go through a repeater. The repeater would send the signal to the tapper, and then the firefighter on the watch desk could say, "Okay guys, we all have to go to Whitten Ave, they're on fire." The reason for the tapper is that they would find out where the fire was and they'd all leave. So someone driving down the road would come along, "Oh, nobody's home, I wonder why," and they'd read the numbers and they'd check the list or the card, and they could see where the fire was. Each fire alarm box has a number, and this specific box that we have not hooked up recently, but it's on our list of to-do, is box 67 at Whitten Ave. And when it's working, you'll get the gong ringing, everybody wakes up, the tapper punches out 67, and the girls and boys that come in really get excited to see how it really works. You'll notice the telephone has no dial, no numbers to punch. You would pick it up, and the operator would answer, and you'd tell her the number you wanted. So a firefighter had to sit here all night and wait for the phone to ring, and you get bored. Now don't do this at home. So this particular firefighter took his pencil, and he measured out a squares, and he put in a checkerboard, and his friends would come in and take turns with him playing checkers. So each firefighter that was on duty had something to do. They read, of course, they had their books, but this particular firefighter did like his checkers. And the kids like this because they have to stop and think what it was like in the middle of the night. No TV, no video games, and what do you do while you're waiting for the phone to ring? Another great symbol of firefighting is our dog. The dogs are kind of interesting. The Dalmatian has a great attitude when it comes to horses. They get along well. They would sleep with them, they would eat with them, and then when there was a fire, some of them could even run between the horse's legs and not get stepped on. So the alarm would go off, the horses would back into their traces, as they call them, they'd gear them up, and they would race off to the fire. Unfortunately, when they got to the fire, the horses are afraid of it. So they would unhitch the horses and put them off to an area where they couldn't see the fire, and the dogs would stay with them and keep them company and keep them from getting nervous. And that's how we ended up with the Dalmatians as a fire symbol. Now the life net has a patch in the center here, and if you're On the third floor, these were at their best. Actually, they tested this particular one at Agricultural Hall in the late 1800s, and it looks very scary. People jumping out of the third floor window to land on a life net. But the life-saving device is a little more comfortable for me because I don't have to see the ground. There's a red circle in the center, and when you were jumping out of the window, you would aim for your bum for that circle, because you didn't want to land on your legs, you'd break them, land on your head, you'd break it. And people would hold the life net, hand one up, one down, and they would give it a little bit of a give like a trampoline. State law required that you keep one of those underneath your ladder truck. Now these are pike poles. Pike poles are usually used in what they call overhauling. Sometime near the end of the fire usually, but maybe sometimes during, depending on how the fire goes. They're designed to rip ceilings down and pieces of wall that you couldn't reach. You know, when you have a floor and then underneath the ceiling for the next room, the fire may be in between, so they want to rip that out so they can get water on it. What's really cool about these is this one here. You'll notice they all have different hooks on them. We had a firefighter, we've had 2 firefighters die in the line of duty in Hingham. One was in 1902 at the Bucket Mill fire. The other one was in his car going to a fire in Hingham when he hit a tree and died. His name was William Lane. When they were cleaning his house out, just recently they cleaned out the barn, they found some of his equipment and sent it over here. And it gives me goosebumps because this one was William Lane's, this pike pole. And to think that he once held this particular pole in his hand is really exciting. And it was sad because he was a good firefighter, he was a young man, and he lost his life too soon.
There's so many other firefighting artifacts that live within the museum's walls, and the museum is always looking for new members, and they love giving tours.
Baseball has been considered America's pastime, and it links many cultures together. For instance, the USA and Japan recently met up in Hingham to play ball. On Friday, March 29th, the Hingham High School baseball team took on Japanese opponents visiting from Tenoshi. The exhibition game was the culmination of a week-long visit to Hingham by Tenoshi players, and they also had the chance to practice with the Hingham team all week. A great experience for both sides.
Clearly, you can tell by the way both teams are acting now. It was a great week. The kids really enjoyed the experience, both sides, and practicing a little bit with them while playing them today. You know, it's just a great thing, something you can't get anyplace else.
It was awesome. It was a little tough sometimes with the language barrier. They only knew a few words, but baseball's the same in every country, so it was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. We really got to see if they were any different than us, and they had some different styles, but it was really interesting, and it just really, I feel like both teams fed off the energy of each other.
What was your experience like in America this week?
日本にはないことばっかりで驚きもあったんですけど、やっぱりなんていうか選択肢が広がったっていうか、人生においてそういう感じですね。
So many unexpected things, all new things that he never experienced in Japan. So there was a lot of surprises, but he feels like he's it's just a view of just a general view of everything has expanded.
Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed your experience this week. Great game today, and glad you had fun.
本当来てくれてありがとうって楽しんで本当くれてよかったと思います。
こちらこそ。Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
The game provided a unique situation for both teams and the Hingham players.
It was exciting. They're really good. That kid had 2 bombs. That kid with those 2 homers. That kid was really good. But yeah, it was awesome. They're a really good team. I'm sure they do really well back in Japan. But yeah.
You know, it's our first outing of the year, really, even being out here. It's March 28th or whatever, so there wasn't a lot of strategy for us. The strategy was get your feet wet, throw some strikes, get some at-bats, and hopefully they're not so good or so much in mid-season form that they kick our butts.
Oh, it was a bunch of fun. I couldn't have wrote a better script to it. It was really I wasn't expecting it to be this exciting. And the ceremonies at the end were great.
Many excited fans are already wondering, what about next year?
You know, we're already talking, how do we do this again, or what happens next year, or when are we going there, and I'd love to have them back very challenging. I'd like to have them back more in the middle of the baseball season and play them, because that would be awesome. All talks are preliminary. I mean, there's a lot to work out. If we went, when would you go? Would it definitely be in baseball season? Would the MIAA allow it? There's a lot of moving parts here. Clearly, I'd say everyone is intoxicated with what happened. So I'd like to see something happen again. I'd love to have them here during April school vacation and have them in like a 4-team tournament, because there's a lot more there baseball-wise for both sides to sort of explore.
Hingham High School opens their varsity season on April 11th against Quincy. Now, if you need to make a new copy or a print, there's a new place in town, and HCAM was there for the grand opening.
So it reads, be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to East Coast Printing in recognition of your celebration of the grand opening of East Coast Printing in Hingham. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. Given this 20th day of March 2014 at the State House, Boston, Mass. By Speaker of the House Robert DeLeo and offered by Garrett Bradley, State Rep.
We just moved in 3 weeks ago, and it was holy hell, if you don't mind me saying that. It was just unbelievable. But with my great staff, and I got to tell you, I got to give them all the compliments here. They pulled it off. They got us in here. We did not miss a beat. We continue to work. We continue to bring orders in, and this place is crazy. By the way, we probably get an average of about close to 100 different orders a day that we have to process, we have to print, we have to cut, we have to box, we have to ship. And I have to thank my staff for keeping up with that pace. It's just been crazy. Anyways, where am I now, Liz? Thank you, staff.
14 years in business at East Coast, and real community leaders, growing the business, involved in so many nonprofits, so many organizations, which you so generously support. And I think the success of East Coast is really impressive, moving from a small print shop, copy shop, to a full print shop in just 14 years, and the level of involvement and customer base you have is really amazing. It probably is no coincidence that so much of that growth has occurred in the last 2 years since you joined the South Shore Chamber of Commerce. So, 12 years to find us and make the right decision, and it's been great. But we appreciate everything you're doing for the Chamber, and so thrilled that as you grow, you stayed on the South Shore. We, of course, don't care where you are on the South Shore, as long as you are on the South Shore. But there is somebody who does care about the town boundaries, and I want to introduce Jim Murphy, who's head of the Hingham Business Council, which is part of the Chamber as well. He does care what side of the town line you're on. So.
Hi, I'm Jim Murphy, and I'm here representing the Hingham Business Council. It's a sort of a subset of the South Shore Chamber, and we're here to congratulate East Coast Printing on their grand opening today. We're real happy to see another business moving into Hingham, and as we discussed earlier, this is a prime area, South Hingham, right along Derby Street. It's going to be a very active corridor of development in the next several years.
Hi, my name is Lou Silver, and I'm president of East Coast Printing, and we just moved from Weymouth to Weymouth after 14 years to beautiful Hingham.
Wonderful. And you said you've been here, I think, about 3 weeks right now. How have you found the reception so far?
The reception is unbelievable. We did a radio interview yesterday on ATD, WATD, and I can't believe how the response we've gotten from it. And Hingham is beautiful. We're right next to the Derby shops, so the employees love it. They can go out and have a nice lunch and come back to work, hopefully. It's been great. No, it really has been great. We're 5,000 square feet here versus what we had. We had only 2,000 square feet where we came from, so we were really tight. And this is great.
So tell me about, you're the digital pre-press manager. Tell me what that entails.
I take the jobs that are designed and I set them up for either press or our high-end digital presses. And I actually run the digital presses, just the two over here. I just basically take it from the start to the finish. I've been doing this for 30 years, and I've seen it grow and change, significantly since I started off, with flats and basically film, and now it's all digital, so you don't see film anymore.
So tell me about the campaign season. I know one of my friends is actually a candidate that's printing with you guys, but tell me about what sort of business that brings you.
Well, they're looking for palm cards, door knockers, lawn signs, and any signs that they might need, when they're doing their fundraisers. The signs we see everybody holding out in the street corner just before the election, we're responsible for printing any of those that you might need. And we're in touch with the people at the Mass GOP, and we do union printing and all of that. So we are growing rapidly, which is wonderful, because this is, a business that's hard to sustain yourself. So he's done a remarkable job, and I've enjoyed it. I've been with him, it's 5 years coming up next month, and it's just been a great experience.
For those who are watching this at home on television and maybe don't know right away where you're located, where would they find you?
2 Keith Way, Unit 5 in Hingham. We're right behind Derby Street Shops, between the Derby Street Shops and the Pilgrim Skating Arena, right next to Hidden Pond.
Wonderful. Is there anything else you want to tell us just about tonight's event or about your kind of future plans here?
Oh, it's really great that everybody showed up. I'm seeing a lot of customers, friends, family, vendors. Everyone is here to support us. We're so proud, because it really shows us that the people that we appreciate us right back. We had Jim Cantwell here, a representative from Garrett Bradley's office. We've had some new customers show up today as well, and we just thank everybody for being so supportive.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your time in the interview.
Thank you. Thank you.
Where can people go to learn more?
Well, the easiest place, everybody is pretty familiar with being online these days, so www.eastcoastpress.com is definitely the place to go. You can see all our services. You can contact us anytime by email. Our emails are listed also on that site.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations, and thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
You're very
that.
welcome.
Thank you. Am I just going to cut this?
Sure.
All right. Ready? Wow.
This is spring. Baseball has begun, the birds are chirping, the days are slowly getting longer, and the month can also mean a time for vacation. Near the end of the month is school April vacation, and the rec center is certainly gearing up for it. Here's a look at what they have planned. The babysitting training course is on Tuesday, April 22nd from 9 a.m. to noon. Participants will learn about babysitter basics, child development, nutrition, basic first aid, and the responsibilities of a babysitter. The 3-hour course includes a safety session. A certificate of completion will be awarded, and the cost is $60. CPR for babysitters is on Tuesday, April 22nd from noon to 3 p.m. Want to be a better babysitter? Take this class and learn the life-saving skill of CPR for infants and children and how to help them if they were choking. The class materials include a CPR booklet and certification card, and it's for ages 10 and up. The LEGO Movie Workshop is on Wednesday, April 23rd from 9 a.m. to noon. Bring the new LEGO Movie to life. Join the team from Eventful and create your very own scene from the movie. Build a construction site, fire station, police station, school, movie theater, and more. You will have the opportunity to meet and use Emmett, Wild Style, Lord Business, Bad Cop, Good Cop, and others. The Legos will stay with us, but your memories will last a lifetime. Each participant will take home a framed photo of themselves with their new LEGO Movie creation. Please send your child with a nut-free snack, and this is limited to 25 participants. The cost is $55. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Hingham Happenings. For all of HCAM's hardworking crew, I'm Ryan Allen saying take care, go out there, and make things happen.